Okay, good morning, everybody. I'm Chris Humphrey, the Executive Director of the EU-ASEAN Business Council. Thank you very much for joining us this morning for this latest webinar. Today, it is on Indonesia's post-pandemic economic choices. So I think we're all aware, of course, COVID-19 is having a huge effect on economies right across Southeast Asia and globally. Indonesia, of course, is the largest economy in the region and is a key driver for economic growth across Southeast Asia. Its economy has, like all the others, been pretty much battered by COVID-19. And so the point for discussion today is how Indonesia will come out of the pandemic through economic recovery. Given, as I said, the size of the economy, but Indonesia is outside of CPTPP at the moment, and is also in the throes of negotiating a trade agreement with the European Union under the CEPA, whereas, of course, Vietnam and Singapore already have FTAs in place. So I think there are lots of key questions here about how Indonesia will be developing its economy going forward, the reform process, where it is standing, and how it intends to attract more foreign direct investment into the country. We have a very good panel today, which our moderator, Anissa, will be introducing very shortly. Anissa very kindly has agreed to stand in to moderate this. Our original moderator, unfortunately, has had a family emergency and is unable to join us. So our thoughts and prayers actually are with Brava at the moment for that. And so with no further ado, I will hand over to Anissa. For those of you who don't know her, Anissa is a partner and managing director at Asia Group Advisors. She has a master's in international law from the Australia National University, a BA in social anthropology from the School of Oriental and African Studies at the University of London, and has more than a decade of experience in public policy and government relations, which included a stint at the ASEAN Secretariat, where she headed the Political Cooperation Division and coordinated a whole series of very senior ASEAN ministerial meetings. So with that, I will hand over to Anissa.
Thank you, Chris, and thank you, everybody, and welcome to this very timely panel on Indonesia's post-pandemic economic choices. I think the word choices here is an apt one, as Chris rightly pointed out. You know, the pandemic has forced governments around the world to make difficult choices every day on a daily basis to safeguard the stability, security, and livelihoods of their people. This is increasingly not just, regarding the health pandemic in and of itself, but increasingly also the economic stability as well. Governments are now looking at issues with a range of issues from employment, labor, taxation, supply chain disruptions, market disruptions, trade disruptions, and how to manage that in a way that balances the needs of all stakeholders, both domestically and internationally. As Chris also, rightly pointed out, Indonesia being the largest market and country in Southeast Asia, of course, garners a lot of attention from investors. Many eyes and many ears are looking at Indonesia to see how the government will respond to the current situation and what that means for investors. This applies increasingly to investors not only who have long-stemming and long-running investments in Indonesia, but of course new investors, many of whom had spent last year in perhaps more of a wait-and-see mode due to the presidential election last year. So our sense is, from speaking to many companies, many of them had actually seen 2020 as the year for increasing and ramping up their activity in Indonesia, and therefore are eagerly awaiting to see what the direction will be and what that implication will have on their commercial objectives. So with that in mind, this timely panel will touch on a number of themes in this regard. We have a great mix of government and private sector speakers, all of whom are in Jakarta, and will share with us today their firsthand experiences and views. Some of the themes that we will be looking at are, what exactly we can anticipate with regards to how COVID is impacting Indonesia economically at this current stage, and of course in the months ahead, as well as policy priorities, investment priorities, opportunities, and perhaps suggestions as to how private companies and associations such as EU-ASEAN might be able to better support or partner with governments to get out of this or to respond to these economic uncertainties, as well as inputs and insights from private sector leaders in Jakarta with regards to what private sector and foreign investors may need or what they can contribute, again, in a very kind of collaborative spirit of together working for economic recovery. So with that brief introduction, I'd like to now turn and introduce our panelists. First, I'd like to introduce Ibu Mira Taiba, who is Senior Advisor to the Coordinating Minister for Economic Affairs. Ibu Mira focuses on digital transformation, creativity, and human capital, the very core issues that will play a big role in economic recovery for Indonesia, for economic resilience. Prior to serving in this current position, Ibu Mira has held a number of positions at the Coordinating Ministry, including expert staff for economic relations and human development and culture. She has played several roles on the regional level as well, as Indonesia's focal point on issues relating to e-commerce development in ASEAN, as well as coordinating the preparation of the National Broadband Plan. Ibu Mira has a Bachelor of Engineering from the University of Indonesia and a Master of Science in Electrical Engineering from Northeastern University. Our second government speaker is Pak Alma Karma from the Indonesia Investment Coordinating Board, or BKPM. Pak Alma is the Director for Promotion Development at BKPM and has served for over 23 years in the agency, so a great expert on developing the right conditions to promote investment, foreign and domestic, in Indonesia. He has served in various positions. Prior to this current position, Pak Alma was the Director for Regional Potential Development in the Investment Climate Development Unit. Pak Alma graduated from the Indonesia Institute of Technology, majoring in mechanical engineering, and has a master's degree in engineering management from George Washington University. From the private sector, we have Pak Edison here, who is representing Eurocham Indonesia. Welcome, Pak. Pak Edison is the Executive Director of Eurocham Indonesia and has deep experience in stakeholder management and government engagement, serving various companies in this regard, both in the private and public companies. Pak Edison has worked for companies including Aneka Gas Industry, Power Bersama Group, and the Indonesian Deposit Insurance Corporation, focusing on investor relations, corporate communications, and several strategic board functions. Pak Edison was raised and educated in the Philippines and the US with master's degrees from the Asian Institute of Management and a Bachelor in Political Science from Purdue. Our fourth speaker is Ibu Vera from Danone Indonesia. Ibu Vera is the VP General Secretary for Danone Indonesia since 2017. Previously, Ibu Vera was the General Counsel for Danone Indonesia, where she focused on commercial legal aspects, regulatory affairs, and compliance across the water and early life nutrition divisions. Ibu Vera has rich experience in a number of MNCs, including GlaxoSmithKline, and has a law degree from the University of Indonesia. So that is our panel of speakers here today. I think what we are aiming for is a very frank, candid, and rich discussion. So please do submit your questions as we go along, and we will reserve a good chunk of time for those towards the end. To kick us off, I would like to please turn over to Pak Alma to start, who I believe has a presentation prepared from BKPM to talk about the current climate and what international investors can expect for the investment climate in Indonesia at this current So please, Pak Alma, go ahead.
Distinguished investors, honorable speakers, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I would like to first extend our gratitude and appreciation to EU-ASEAN Business Council to organize this important forum and for inviting the KTM. And today I am here to share with you about Indonesian latest economic performance, strategy in the boosting investment performance amidst the pandemic. Let's start with Indonesia's achievement and the remaining challenges. Early this year, the world economy has been impacted with the outbreak of COVID-19 that has disturbed the political, social, economic, and financial structure of the whole world. According to the OECD, in the first quarters of 2020, some of the 20 countries experienced a slowdown. China fell to -6.8 during the period of pandemic. The same situations happened in Indonesia, where Indonesia still relatively slightly decreased by 2.97. Same situations happen among Asian countries with several impact hitting Singapore by -2.2. Within such situations, the Indonesia economy faced not only a slight decrease, but also a drop in investment realization by 9.2% this semester, of which clearly impacted on labor absorption, with approximately 5.5 million workers being laid off. The Minister of Finance of the Republic of Indonesia recorded a growth of 2.97% year-on-year in Q1 2020, slowing down due to restriction on economic activity and of efforts on to tackle the COVID-19 pandemic. Resumption of the business covers various sectors such as trade, tourism, transportation, manufacturing, and industry, and others. However, we find comfort knowing that according to several credible international institutions, we might manage to recover from fallout in 2020. The fundamentals of Indonesia economic continue to be strong, and the economic outlook remains positive. Such projections, of course, boost our confidence to put all effort to handling the economic recovery post-COVID-19. According to UNCTAD World Investment Report 2020, global foreign direct investment flow are forecast to decrease by up to 40% in 2020. From there, 29 value of $1.54 trillion. This would bring FDI flow, FDI below $1 trillion for the first time since 2005. FDI is projected to decrease 5% to 10% in 2021, and it will start a recovery in 2022. The government of Republic Indonesia has taken some strategy to maintain the economic growth by maintaining consumption such as boosting investment performance, and supporting the export-import through tax incentive, custom incentive, import facility for export purpose, and export-import process acceleration. I would like to share to you about investment performance in Indonesia. The first semester of 2020, we managed to achieve about 402.6 trillion Indonesia rupiah, contributing to about 49.3% of total investment ratio target. This semester, the domestic direct investment surpassed foreign direct investment by contributing about 207 trillion Indonesia rupiah, or 51.4% from a total value of investment realization. These figures show that Indonesia economy is still survive to face the pandemic. Excellent. Singapore still maintain to be strong FTA source in Indonesia, contributing about $4.6 billion, or 34.4% of total investment realization this semester. And most investment projects were still located in Java Island, and where tertiary sectors dominated investment realization in the first semester by 100.9 trillion rupiah, or 49.9% of total investment. As for European investment in Indonesia, the KPM recorded that during the first quarter of 2020, FDI from European region contribute about 15.4 billion US dollars, with Netherlands is the biggest contributor. As for the remaining sectors, European investors mostly invested in the secondary sectors by 41.7%, and mostly located in Java Island. As in the struggling in the time of COVID-19, Indonesia government has revised investment target from 806 billion rupiah to be 817.2 billion rupiah by the end of this year. To keep up with the momentum, the KPM has operated under 6 key performance indicators. These 6 indicators are the strategies to survive the pandemic, so as to boost investment performance. Among the 6, we are currently targeting the execution of the large investment realization. We believe that resolving investment bottlenecking in Indonesia is one of the promotion strategy to attract inward investment. From 708 trillion rupiah investment realization potential, we managed to facilitate about 410 trillion. And the KPM is not only facilitating issues from large investment, but also medium and small investments. We also have identified strategy to cope with the pandemic. To maintain the investment climate, we are aiming to facilitate existing companies and to facilitate existing companies which the investment plan have not been executed. We also aim to bring new investment. Besides that, we are also formulating a series of incentives for potential expansion of existing companies. Especially to boost FDI inward during pandemic, BKPM continue to approach foreign investors who are interested to invest in Asia through a video conference. We also continue to facilitate companies which have issues in licensing by directly coordinating with the related ministers of government institution. In executing the strategy, we conduct equal treatment which apply to all countries. As for the domestic direct investment, BKPM commit to support local businessmen and small medium enterprises. We had signed MOU between BKPM and the Ministry of State-Owned Enterprises in the context of accelerating investment licensing, exchanging data and information to increase investment relation and facilitate small state-owned enterprises companies. This MOU will provide a platform that creates partnerships between local and foreign investors with small and medium enterprises. Right. We also pay attention to the potential sectors that are subject to growth during the pandemic. E-commerce, digital technology, and cybersecurity are the potential sector to be developed. As the demand of healthcare service also grows rapidly during the pandemic, biotech becomes the hottest industry at the moment. Another sector that we aim to develop is renewable energy. Because it has the 6th largest recipients of FDI, according to FDI market statistics. These can be a potential direct boosters to the investment realization. Presidential Instruction number 7 of 2019 was issued to give authorization for BKPM in terms of the business licensing. This regulation enables BKPM to provide much faster licensing process by allowing BKPM to coordinate corrective measures to improve UDB's rating. Evaluate the implementation of business licensing and investment facilitate, executed and provide by ministers or institutions, and facilitate and provide service to investors in managing their business license and providing investment facilities, and prepare norms, standards, procedures, and criteria of business licensing and granting of investment facilities delegated by minister and institution. All in all, BKPM is the front line in accelerating ease of doing business. The implementation of this president regulations has been taken place. In accordance to that, 21 ministers or institutions has issued ministerial regulation or a decree to delegate business license to BKPM. Ladies and gentlemen, BKPM is committed to always provide the best service to the investors through regulation reform, editing a licensing process, and formulating of incentive and assurance in the giving interest of protection and equal treatment. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Pak Alma, for that very comprehensive presentation. There are some questions that have already popping up for you, but we'll take that a bit later. Actually, I would like to pivot now to Ibu Mira, because I saw in your presentation reference to the priority sectors for investment, many of which are very relevant to Ibu Mira's portfolio with the focus on digital transformation, cybersecurity, and the like. So, Ibu Mira, would you like to please share perhaps your views and how the coordinating ministry under Pak Erlangga, how you are approaching your role, kind of coordinating amongst the different agencies, as well as any insights as to what the foreign business community can expect, as well as what the foreign business community could perhaps better contribute in their engagements with the governments in the next couple of months. Thank you.
Thank you, Bu Anissa. First of all, I would like to thank you, ABC, of course, for the opportunity for me to share thoughts and experience. And I'm sure I will get insights from you as well. So first, I'd like to highlight that what we are experiencing now is also experienced by another 216 countries. So similar to what has been happening in the rest of the world, Indonesia is facing decreased economic growth, as Pa Alma pointed out. In the first quarter of this year, while others had negative growth, we still grew 2.97% year-on-year. However, it is projected that we will have negative growth in the second quarter. Bloomberg predicted minus 3.1% in June, and then they corrected to minus 3.4% in July. The government has launched a package of 686.2 trillion rupiah for COVID relief package, consisting, among others, 87.5 trillion for health sector, 123 trillion for MSMEs, 203 trillion for social protection, and so on. So the challenge lies in the third and fourth quarter, as we are trying to avoid, the deep V when the negative growth goes even deeper, or the U-shaped growth when the negative growth goes longer. So it is definitely a challenge, given the fact that a number of businesses are reopened with strict health protocols, of course, while the number of positive cases still increases. Please keep in mind that we already passed the 100,000 positive cases. So in order to bounce back, we are taking a number of measures. The first one, of course, we're trying to control the pandemic. We are making sure that the health facilities are equipped. We're also working on the vaccine. We are preparing a super deduction tax of up to 300% for pharmaceutical companies which develop COVID-19 vaccine in Indonesia. At the same time, we also develop a rapid diagnostic test called RIGA, which was developed based on virus strain transmitted in Indonesia. So it is very, a local virus strain. So we can do scanning more massive with a lower price. Actually, it is half price from what is normal price that we have right now. The second measure is to accelerate reform through the Omnibus Law on job creation. The current COVID-19 pandemic has caused many people to lose their jobs and income. Government support is absolutely necessary to avoid a surge in unemployment and poverty rates. So the Omnibus Bill on job creation is expected to be a post-pandemic rescue net to restore the business world and MSMEs, through investment facilities to promote job creation and increase worker protection. And the third measures is that we expand the fiscal space to accommodate the support for economic reform, the social assistance, tax incentives, and so on. So on top of those measures, we also speed up the digital transformation. We believe digital transformation is the key instrument for us to bounce back. Actually, we already have done some digital transformation in the last 3 years. I give you examples. Online single submission is one of them. One data initiatives, Palaparing project, facilitating micro and small businesses to go online. But we witnessed that the pandemic has highlighted the urgency for wider and deeper digital transformation. So we're talking about beyond e-commerce, beyond fintech, what is digital transformation will do for example, promoting the Indonesia potential for digital goods. I mean, our creative industry like animation, software development, games, it is a big industry because we see a shift from physical goods to digital goods. And it is when we're talking about digital goods, not really, we don't need physical contact. So I think it is an area that we are going to focus on. I know for sure that digital transformation can be very overwhelming since it is packed with advanced technologies, capital intensive, and the scope can be very extensive. So we are open for any inputs, discussions. I know for sure that, for example, Ericsson did 5G rollout, or even our national data center is supported by one of the member of EU country member. So yeah, I mean, I think I leave it as that for now, Bu Anissa. Bottom line is that we're very excited to do the digital transformation. It is a big task, and through this occasion, I'd like to actually invite for EU-ABC members to, share insights or give perspectives on that issue. Thank you, Bu.
Thank you, Bu. That's very insightful, and I think the openness for insights and collaboration and sharing of kind of best practices from experiences is something that hopefully can be increased during this time where I think everybody, like all stakeholders across business and government, are eager to increase collaboration, even though it is not necessarily in person for the current time. So that's, I think, a good segue to maybe hearing from some of our private sector speakers who might be able to share a bit more of their experiences, as well as some recommendations from the private sector side in Indonesia. I think Pak Edison maybe will be able to share some of the views from the European companies as your role as the head of EUROCHAM, and maybe you can share what you've been seeing, as well as maybe perhaps respond to any of the comments from our government representatives as well. So Pak Edison, I hand it over to you.
Okay, I don't have any specific presentations as our colleagues from the government have, but I could share the experiences of the European businesses in Indonesia. First of all, in respect to the impact of COVID-19 to European business interest or presence in Indonesia, we can divide in two ways, externally and internally. Externally, as expected, since this is a global pandemic, it has an impact unexpectedly, but predictably, on variables within a company that they need to anticipate as a result of the impact on supply chains for companies. At the same time, the slowdown in business, of course, would likely lead to lower revenues, thereby requiring prudent cash management by businesses in order to secure a fairly sound liquid position. In addition to that, in order to be able to navigate the complexity, risks, and uncertainty, companies need to have a better understanding of the regulatory changes that came about as a result of the pandemic. Therefore, there is a need also to strategize and emerge stronger to mitigate the impact ahead. So that's on the external side that I saw in terms of the impact of COVID-19 on companies. Internally, companies were required to adapt to a number of new protocols to be able to continue to operate. There were companies that were allowed to operate that represent certain sectors, and those also that were allowed to operate, but in a much reduced presence and workforce. So the new normal, or what the government recently recalled as the new habits protocols, required companies to apply safety and health measures that includes health protocols and equipment in place. Companies were also required to manage the placement of and assignment of manpower within working hours and internal setup for coordination procedures in order to ensure that the social distancing measures were fulfilled. Both of these were subsequently resulted in adjustments and transformations in the business model. Now, in terms of the challenges to investors currently encountering or doing business in Indonesia, rather than read out a list of challenges that investors face, I would like to share some of the key recommendations that EuroCham presented in its annual position paper last month in regards to investment. Number one, we believe the government can attract more new investments to the country by relaxing its foreign investment regime to attract new investment. There are many sectors that still remain subject to a maximum percentage of foreign ownership in this country, and this needs to be further relaxed to be open for foreign investment. We would like to, of course, give praise and to the government partners, BKPM and the Coordinating Ministry of the Economy for the efforts that they have done through the years to open up the country, but we believe to attract European investment into Indonesia. Second of all, in doing so, they must also not forget to keep those that are already in the country to remain in the country. So there needs to be a certain degree of certainty and clarity for existing companies to operate in Indonesia. Predictability is the key to create conducive investment climate. This could also be fostered through a grandfather clause for existing investments as an essential principle that helps foreign investments remain in Indonesia. Number three, we believe reduced tendency towards localization. It is well understood that the government will try to boost local manufacturing through the issuance of several regulations that put mandatory local content calculation in sectors such as automotive products, energy equipment, pharmaceuticals, and tobacco products. However, the effectiveness to achieve the overarching objectives remains questionable. The implementation could be counterproductive towards the appetite of foreign investors to enter Indonesia. There are also this may potentially also disrupt in the availability of raw materials as well as the end products, while there is still no sufficient local capacity to meet the demand. And finally, to keep Indonesia interesting as an investment destination, the country needs to also pay attention to the competitiveness of the overall economy and its position. It is as a connectivity hub within the region. This can be carried out by making it more efficient and simplify in terms of processes and bureaucracy, reducing prohibition that restrict movement of certain goods, and enable greater harmonization and better linkages with international standards to open market access worldwide. In regards to future economic and global trends that may surface in the medium to long term for Indonesia within Europe, we believe that this global pandemic situation will force countries, not only Indonesia, but also the EU and other countries as well, to reevaluate their value chains. And Indonesia is in a unique and opportunistic position in a sense, given our large population and our strategic position geographically. So we should both work together to garner and fully utilize this to our advantage, mutual advantage. In regards to questions relating to how businesses can work alongside in the Indonesian government, I think institutions such as EuroCham and EU-ABC is an ideal platform for this. In EuroCham's perspective, we are an ideal example of how we can basically collaborate with our stakeholders, such as the Indonesian government, the Indonesian and foreign chambers of commerce, and other stakeholders. EuroCham is unique as we are a policy advocacy platform with a unified single voice for European businesses in Indonesia, committed towards enhancing competitiveness and ease of doing business in Indonesia. We work through our working groups, 15 working groups at the time, that represent various sectors, along with an active dialogue with government and stakeholders. EuroCham produced annually, and we formally submit this to the government for their consideration. We recently launched our position paper 2020 last month actually, and which was attended by the coordinating Minister of Economy, Bahar Tarto, as well as other ministers from the Ministry of Industry and Communications, wherein we recommended actually 5 areas of change. One is to encourage the involvement of the private sector. 2 is to simplify the process and bureaucracy. 4 is enhance connectivity. And finally, 5 is to increase consumer choice and access to innovative products. EuroCham's working groups are currently actively seeking to follow up on these recommendations in the coming months. Now, in regards to how we view the current EU-SEPA negotiations, I'd like to stress that EuroCham is a firm backer and supporter of the success of the current EU's SEPA round of negotiations, as well as the sustainability and the green economy issues that EU is well known for. In regards to EU-SEPA, we had previously worked with the EU delegation in Indonesia to promote the benefits and changes of the SEPA negotiations to various stakeholders in partnership with Cobit. The next round of negotiations that was initially slated for March was postponed due to COVID-19, but I'm glad to hear that was resumed in June and is expected to continue on in October 2020. For our part, EuroCham, in partnership with the Indonesian Chambers of Commerce, submitted a joint letter in April emphasizing our support for the SEPA negotiations process and the importance to resume the negotiations. In response to our letter, the chief negotiators from the Indonesian government and the EU expressed their appreciation for our support and their commitment towards the negotiations. EuroCham itself has actively conducted a dialogue on the progress of SEPA on several occasions, including more recently with the EU chief negotiator, Helena Koenig, by virtual means in June. So that's, in a nutshell, what EuroCham has been doing in respect to promoting mutual trade and investment between Indonesia and the EU. Back to you, Anissa.
Thank you, Pak Edison. That was great. And agree that these kind of multi-platform, multi-stakeholder platforms are course, the great way to start this dialogue and to continue this dialogue. So I think we will now turn to our final speaker, and because I see there's a lot of great questions coming in. So Ibu Vera, I think you have a very rich experience with European companies operating in Indonesia. Danone itself is one of the leading European investors in Indonesia. We would love to hear your views as to how, as a company, what you can share in terms of how you might be adjusting your plans and engagement and how you're looking at Indonesia, as well as your expertise from a legal point of view, perhaps with regards to kind of specific, regulatory issues. I think Alma touched upon earlier, the issue of like debottlenecking. So if you have any views or on those issues, that would be great. And then we will turn to the Q&A. So over to you, Vera.
Thank you, Mbak Anissa. Good morning, everybody on the call. Terima kasih, Pak Alma, Bu Mira, for addressing the angles from the government. Pak Edison representing the European business communities in Indonesia. First of all, for the opportunity, and I hope everyone here in the call is safe and healthy. Wherever you might be with your organization and also your families in your respective countries. I think we can all acknowledge the challenge that we're facing together here, and we can hear that as well in terms of the impacts that both governments and industries and of course communities and social environment that we're facing during the challenge. So just to share a bit of, in a nutshell, what Danone in Indonesia has been doing and experiencing and adapting in the past, let's say, 4 or 5 months when we have this pandemic. So for the presence itself, we're proud to say that with the 25 factories that we still have in Indonesia, all the factories are still running. We can still cater around 15,000 Danoners in all their respective roles, doing the productions and ensuring that our nutrition products and hydration products are available for the consumers. And I think we can acknowledge that in this current situation, I think the need to have the right healthy products available in the market is accessible and affordable for the consumers is key to support everybody, including the government's agenda, so that we can still have a productive environment while keeping our people safe and healthy. So over the past of 65 years through our SGM and 2 million livelihoods, we continue to bring our mission in Indonesia of bringing health through food, beverage to as many as people as possible. I think in the current situation, the vision of one planet, one health that we have is much more important than before. Even at this point, we have accelerated as well through our parent company in Paris, that we are now certified as an enterprise with a mission, meaning that it's written in our articles that the company has a dual mission, both as economic mission, but also a social mission. And I think that shows quite a strong testament on how Danone can continue to operate and how we can continue to operate in Indonesia. So of course, to maintain the presence of our business strong here in Indonesia with all the challenges, we need to address our people. So at the first start of the pandemic, this is the first priority that we put in place. From the first day, we had a task force in place in the national level up to the regional level to make sure that the production and operations are running, but people understand how they need to operate, how they need to behave, what sort of health protocols. And for those people in the health in the head offices, we have adapted as well the ways of working following the government recommendations and regulations. So until now we do have a return to office, but it's very an early stage, phase 1, where we still learn and let's say understand how we can adapt the work from office situation, but it does not impact the productivity and effectiveness on the way the people are working to ensure that our products remains available and accessible by the communities. It is a challenge for sure. It's not easy, and I think we all as an industry are learning with each other, sharing experience, how can we come through out of this pandemic.
Also, Danone Indonesia have committed more than 30 billion rupiah over the past months to support the government and the communities in the fight against the pandemic. So it covers donations from the basic PPE up to ventilators, but we also address vulnerable people with specific product donations, especially on nutrition and healthy hydration. We've cooperated with governments, NGOs, communities, national and regional level, and also across other industry players. Again, it's a joint effort, it's a collaboration, and we need to make sure as well that we play a role in terms of education the consumers, the public in general, support each other during the health pandemic. It's a public health concern, so everybody has a role to play with. Not only government, not only the frontliners, the medical team, but also us as an industry and our employees. So I think there's a lot of topics already being mentioned by both Pak Alma, Ibu Mira, and Pak Edison in terms of what the industries are facing, the challenges right now, all the facilities and the relaxation that has been put in place. Is being very much appreciative. Employees, but also we become taxed. So I think we really appreciate the government to actually lay that out for the industries. But again, the challenge continues, and I think with working together, sharing the inputs, especially through Eurocham and other industry associations, on how some of these regulations should be addressed, and more incentives, let's say specific targeted incentives that can be put in place to make sure that industry like Danone can continue to survive, not adding more concerns of the government on non-employment, but also can come out of 2020 with a stronger, let's say, platform for 2021. So if I can put just several topics on the table on what the importance is. One is, I think nutrition access is really important. We know very well this is a challenge during this period, but I think having the right, let's say, incentive and set of regulations to ensure of product nutritions are out there for our consumers, especially those we understand from one of the government in Central Java that when we see or when we target what are the concerns of consumers or people in the villages, is that most of the donations rarely target or does not remember the needs of young children and let's say pregnant moms. And I think that is something that we need to put on the agenda of the government, especially the target on reducing stunting prevalence remains there and continue to be highest on the agenda and will become more challengeable during this period. And Danone Indonesia, with our Danone Specialized Nutrition Arms, we're here also to support and share and exchange capabilities on what we can do. Another one, of course, is hydration. We also understand the access to water in Indonesia is still a challenge, and I think across the industry, not only Danone Aqua, but also we have associations like Aspadin. We see the impact on how the business is impacted during the COVID because of the limited of mobility of people and the type of consumption that is different. But we are still here strong to provide the healthy hydration for Indonesian consumers. So the shifting of the business, we really need to understand about how digital transformation is a no-brainer. It's no point of, it's no returning back. It has to be escalated. It's beyond e-commerce, totally understand with Ibu Mira's comments, because I think it covers also the ways of working and how we engage with our multi-stakeholders. And then, of course, in terms of incentives for industries that actually are here to address beyond just business, but also to address the government agenda on waste management and waste reduction. It again becomes much more of an issue if we can see some of the reporting and the data, how the type of waste during the period are piling up. And I think it's important that industries are and to make the economy running, but also to come up with solutions on how we can partner with the government to solve the waste management issue in Indonesia. And I think Danone Aqua, particularly with the history of waste management and waste collection that we've been doing for the past years, since 1983, I think we have a lot of capability that we can share as a company, and we've been doing that a lot in partnering with the government and mostly stakeholders. So I think there's a lot of adaptation that companies like Danone Indonesia have been doing, and we will continue to do so. Of course, partnering with the government, partnering with the association, and we're here to discuss on what sort of improvements can be put in place as an industry and as a community, and of course, here to support Indonesia going strong after the pandemic. I think with the limited time, I'll give it over back to Mbak Anissa, and maybe we have time for more Q&A. Thank you.
Thank you, Ibu Vera. Indeed, we have a number of great questions. So I think we'll kick it off with the Q&A with a focus on the region. This, of course, being the EU-ASEAN Business Council. We have a few questions here that I would like to present to our government speakers, to Bumira and Pak Alma, with regards to the role of the ASEAN Economic Community, particularly given some recent comments by the government, where Indonesia might have to review its membership of AEC, as well as questions with regards to how the ASEAN Economic Community can help Indonesia realize its foreign investment targets. It would also be good to hear your views as to how economic integration in the region can be leveraged to benefit Indonesia as, again, the largest market in Southeast Asia. So I'll maybe turn to Pak Alma first to give his views from BKPM, and then Ibu Mira, if you could share your views on AEC as well. Thank you. Pak Alma, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Anissa. Yeah, I read about the questions here, and I think we know that Indonesia is one of the Asian members. We have to support each other. Yeah, we have to cooperation with other Asian countries. Yeah, because maybe we have same roots. Yeah, as the Asian Southeast Asian countries, and yeah, even though there's some competition between Asian countries to attract investors from foreign, yeah, but I think so. We still keep our relations and cooperation with those countries, with the Asian countries members, and I believe this will strong, yeah. And like the other question about what kind of specific about interactive between Asian country business, yeah. As you know that some Asian countries has already set up their interest in Indonesia, like Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand. Some business already set up in Indonesia, and it's running well. So I think in the future, we still keep the develop of the cooperation, and we hope that many investors from our neighbors will come to Indonesia and join with Indonesians and create a lot of opportunity here, create a lot of job opportunity, and I think we still keep this relationship. I think this is my question. Yeah, Ms. Anissa, thank you.
Thank you, Pak. Ibu Mira, would you like to add on?
Yeah, Bu Anissa, I mean, I don't see any reason for us to leave the community. ASEAN becomes emerging player now globally, and in digital space, we already have the ASEAN Agreement on E-commerce signed 2018. And we also have digital integration. So we already agreed to digitally integrated of ASEAN. And, in ASEAN itself, the readiness of digital adoption is for sure not even. So I think that's the beauty in it. I mean, it is an opportunity. It is a challenge as well as an opportunity for us to learn from each other. And I don't see any competition. I mean, last year we concluded the one of the US cloud company investment in Indonesia. Also will make Indonesia as a regional hub. Although we know that they already have one in Singapore. So I don't see any competition here. We can also, the digital cake is very, large. So we can take piece, it's enough for everybody in ASEAN. So again, I think I just want to highlight that the need to stick with the community.
Yeah, I think there's also a point to the comment about intra-ASEAN trade, and perhaps focusing on that, given that this region in some respects is actually starting to emerge from the crisis a bit sooner than other parts of the world, and there's ongoing discussions about travel bubbles and things like that, and whether this might actually be the time for where increased intra-regional, intra-ASEAN trade might be key for economic recovery in Indonesia. Is that something that's been discussed specifically as part of this economic strategy? Either by Almar, Ibu Mira, if you have any views to that. It might also tie, Pak Alma, with the point mentioned by Pak Edison earlier with regards to foreign direct investment and the review of FDI caps. I think there are also questions with regards to the progress on BKPM. This was something that was, of course, discussed earlier at the beginning of the Jokowi second term before COVID hit us all. So if you have also views on discussions with regards to caps on foreign investment, as well as whether intra-ASEAN trade is being prioritized. Alma?
Yeah, I think so. I don't catch your question, but I just want to say that
it was related to the FDI and the caps, so the negative investment list. I think Pak Edison mentioned that is still a key factor in realizing and attracting European investment, I think, including potentially large-scale realization that is part of BKPM's priority list.
Yeah, I think we have to change from negative list to priority sectors list, yeah, where we have to concern about we open for investors, and then eligible give for incentive for that company. Yeah, yeah, I think so. So, Anissa.
Yeah, and what about the role of infrastructure in that? I think that was, we have a question here. I think that was actually not touched on in too much detail from your presentation. So whether infrastructure development and investment is still a priority, and to what extent during this COVID time?
To Anissa, yeah, I think probably infrastructure is still focused in our agenda, because as you know that during the pandemic, yeah, the DDI, domestic direct investment, increased because we have already developed our infrastructures. One of the key DDI surpassed FDI this pandemic situation. So we still developed infrastructures like the toll roads, railroads, industrial estate. I think this is one of our sectors that we focus.
Okay, thank you, Pak. That's clear. We have a few questions with regards to digital economy and digital transformation. So Ibu Mira, there's one quite specific one agreeing with you with regards to the need to increase digital economy and Indonesia's capacity to develop its digital goods. One question is regarding the infrastructure, I think, which you also touched on the need to make sure that the correct infrastructure is in place to support the development of the digital economy. So one is relating to digital invoicing, which is until now not supported with the current framework, particularly by the DG Tax, and whether you have any insight as to whether the government is looking at this issue. Thank you.
Well, if I may, I'd like to share a slide.
Yep, that'd be great.
So this is what we are. It's in Bahasa. Sorry, I didn't prepare for today's forum, but I think you can guess from the okay. So this is basically our framework for digital transformation. So we are doing the building blocks. The soft part at the very bottom, the soft part is the mindset, the vision, digital leadership, and enabling policies. And then at the middle, we have three rows. Is the basic infrastructure, the hard infrastructure, the soft infrastructure, which is the digital talent. And then we're talking about data for data privacy, security, as well as the use of data, like open data, and then cybersecurity and R&D. What we are going to do with these building blocks is to serve the scope of work of the digital transformation itself. So we're doing digital transformation in government, in the business, and the society. For digital government, we are focusing on the digitization of government services. I think digital ID is one of them, and then how to make government operation even more efficient. So to be honest, I haven't heard about the plan of Digitex to do digital invoicing. I mean, it's been discussed quite a bit, but what is the timeline? I can find out for you, but I think it is part of the how we make government operation more efficient. As for digital economy, we are focusing on two areas. Is this the 4.0 itself, the smart industry? We are going to have the pilot in one of the industry area, just to showcase whether it works. It's just the proof of concept, because we are still working on the spectrum allocation. And the second is digital service industry, which I touched earlier, to accommodate the shift in trade from physical goods to digital goods. And then in digital society, the education and health are, of course, the heart of the transformation. I know that the schools will be done, the schooling process will be done online at least till the end of this year. So, I mean, we are, from the beginning, we understand the response towards safeguarding our lives cannot be in the expense of those of safeguarding our livelihood, and vice versa. The policies taken to save our national economy cannot sacrifice the efforts to stop the pandemic. So the schools can be open only in the green zone. Otherwise, it has to be done online. Ministry of Education actually already allows school operational fund BOS, Bantuan Operasional Sekolah, to be used to provide phone credit subsidy for the teachers and students. And by the same token, acknowledging the importance of internet and to support the Learn from Home program, Telkomsel, our largest cellular operators, offers e-learning package consisting of e-learning session in which users can access to 10 digital platforms in education and more than 200 e-learning sites, along with 10 gigabytes internet allowance for only 10 rupiah, not 10,000, 10 rupiah. But of course, we also heard that a number of areas, the students have to go kilometers, 2 or 3 kilometers every day just to get signal, just to get Wi-Fi. So that's why the 4G rollout will be done in the next 2 to 3 years. Out of more than 83,000 villages, we still lack 7,900 villages in the non-commercial areas for 4G signal. So that's one of the biggest agenda for infrastructure agenda. Along with that, we of course doing the extension of Palaparing project. I mean, the fiber optics already reached the capital of cities and regencies, but it has to be extended to homes, to last miles. And then there's also discussion for spectrum allocation for education using terrestrial television. Although it's not two-way, at least we can reach those who are living in the very remote area. So that's this is our plan. So again, Bu Anissa, I know EU, ABC, EU Chamber has insights, experience doing this in your country or in other countries. So please support us.
Thank you, Ibu Mira. I agree that's the role of or the benefit of collaboration that EU companies can bring with regards to their experiences and best practices. I think we're coming up to the end of our session, so I just wanted to pose one final question to all of our speakers, and it's a bit different, but I think everybody going through this pandemic, everybody's aim is to emerge somehow stronger, better, or more resilient as an individual or as a government or as a company. So I'd like to wrap up by asking each speaker, so for Pa Edison and Ibu Vera, if you could maybe in one or two words just tell us, what do you see with regards to the opportunity for private sectors either about to invest or already operating in Indonesia? And then for Pa Alma and Ibu Mira, if you could share with us, and again, one or two just quick words, what is your objective or your goal, your hope for the next few months as we try to recover and rebuild our domestic as well as global economy? What would be really the personal objective that you set for yourself in your roles in government? Bu Vera, will turn it to you, and then Pa Edison, then Pa Alma, and then Ibu Mira to wrap up. So please go ahead, Bu Vera.
Thank you, Mbak Anissa. So I think with the current situation, from Danone perspective, for sure, nutrition and immunity related topics will continue to be high on the agenda. Hence, I think as mentioned, the healthcare, let's say, situation or healthcare related will be a very much focused, let's say, opportunities to continue for Indonesia. Also, on top of that, we can see a growing healthy aging population that needs to be addressed healthily as well in Indonesia. And coming back to the digital transformation. For sure, e-commerce beyond digital would be an opportunity because it covers end-to-end. It covers the route to market. It covers the multi-stakeholder education and engagement as well. So I think those, in a way, two bigger, let's say, topics would still be on the agenda, on top of course, addressing the government objectives in reducing waste or managing waste. Will still be there post-pandemic. It will become much more important as well.
Thank you, Ibu. Edison?
Okay, thank you, Anissa. In my view, I think this pandemic situation is a very unique situation. It opens opportunities for everyone to make transactions, to make deals happen. And I think in Indonesia's context, I think we've seen that. Kudos to the government. They've successfully rolled out the Indonesia, Australia, SIPA recently, and then I think they're looking into passing the omnibus bill, the omnibus law. So that's a positive as well. But I think given this current situation, we could expect competition not only among our regional neighbors, but also from other countries to step up by next year. So Indonesia should be ready to face that, and we should start preparing now. So hopefully the IEU-SIPA negotiations can be rolled out as well. And also one factor that we need to look at seriously again, even though we're in a pandemic situation, is the issue of sustainability. Europe is a pioneer and also a strong proponent of sustainability in the Green Deal. And I think given this situation, I think Indonesia should also seriously look at that as well. And also the feedback that I received from my constituents here at EUROCHAM also is also we need to assure the expatriates and expertise that we have here in Indonesia remain here as well and stay comfortable here. I think one issue that's been raised is school openings. The SPK, the international school openings, should also be allowed as well, given certain protocols are met. So that expatriates could still remain here with their dependents, because their dependents are also bringing in much needed investment and cash as well. So we should look into that as well in the current term. And also we should also prepare about rolling out business visas, because business visas are also needed for companies to help maintain or stay on top of the competition, so to speak. So not only should we look at attracting tourists back here to Bali again, but also how to attract expertise that need business visas come to Indonesia. I would like to commend BKPM, who have to date also worked hard to provide extended visas for expatriates here. And I hope BKPM and the coordinating ministry could also look into these issues as well. Thank you, Anissa.
Thank you, Edison. Alma, any concluding thoughts on your objectives before we wrap up? And then,
yes, as you know that before you can let's see my presentation that we have a homework to how to solve the realization, and then we have to join together with the local governments to push realization, and for the special company that not realization executed right now. So we also join with other institution, government institution, to create more job opportunity for small business enterprises. Yeah, like I said, that we have supposed to have a coordination or coordination with small medium with the FDI and DDI to help our small medium enterprises to face uncertain condition in this pandemic condition. And I hope all our programs will achieve better condition for our people, and then we hope we can fight with uncertain conditions like this. Yeah. Thank you. Oh,
Thank you, Pak.
Sa-
Ibu Mira, over to you.
Well, I believe the pandemic brings out the best in us. It enforces us to be more focused, more creative, and even bolder. So hopefully, this pandemic is just a detour in our effort to reach our 2045 vision, Indonesia Emas. A lot of homework, of course, and a big task for us in the coordinating Ministry for Economic Affairs. As the chairman, our minister, as the chairman of the new committee of COVID-19 control and national economic recovery. The sooner we handle this pandemic, the better for our lives and livelihoods. And I think, again, cooperation among countries will be a key to stop the pandemic. Thank you.
Thank you, Ibu. That's a great tagline for all of us. Maybe it's for the rest of the year, go bolder. So I think with that, I'd like to thank everybody for your time. I know we've gone over, but there's a lot to talk about. But thank you for your insights, your candid views. There's some questions that haven't been answered yet, but I think the overall sentiment here is that, while we continue to try to address the emerging and urgent situation on the ground, the government and private sector remain open for coordination, collaboration for business, and lines for dialogue and for working together to improve the business environment for foreign businesses. For European businesses is definitely still there. So with that, I'll turn it back to Chris to wrap up this session. Thank you everybody again for your time.
And thanks Anissa as well for great moderation there. Big thanks to Pak Alma and Ibu Mira for the insights from government. I was actually very impressed with the investment numbers that were shown at the beginning by Pak Alma. Numbers actually quite surprised me. Ibu Mira, thank you very much for your insights from the private sector. Edison, always a pleasure to have you on our webinar with us from EuroCham Indonesia. Looking forward to do a lot more going forward. Please, everyone, join us again next week. We have next week a webinar involving the EU ambassador to ASEAN and the Singapore ambassador to the EU, discussing the future of EU-ASEAN relations, and a further program webinars coming up in the near future, one on circular economy and one involving the Vice Minister for Commerce from Thailand as well. So again, big thanks to our panel, big thanks to Anissa, and I wish everybody to keep safe and keep well, and we'll speak again soon. Thank you.
Thank you.